Today we're going to go over box and whisker plots, or at least kind of the basics of making those. And that is a direct extension off of what you were working on yesterday with those quartiles. So essentially a box and whisker plot is just a visualization of those quartiles that you were working with yesterday. So you use the same math stuff that you were using yesterday will apply for today. It's just now we're taking and putting it into sort of a graphic format, right? Or graphical format. So what a box and whisker plot looks like, or maybe you guys would have that. Actually, let's make this a little easier for you guys to see. So what that will look like here is you have your box, which is in the middle, and it always has a line in that box. I shouldn't say always, because sometimes this line would actually be maybe at the very beginning or at the very end of it, and then you wouldn't see it, but it would still be there, right? So that could happen, but for the most part, there will always be a line in the middle of this box, and then you'll have the two whiskers coming off of the end. And it's just a representation of kind of where some of the data is located, not necessarily how much data there is. So in this case, there would be the same amount of data in this whisker as there would be in one of a part of this box, and the same amount in this box, and the same amount in this whisker. It's just more spread out. So it doesn't represent how much stuff is in there, but how spread out the data is. That's all it does. But how to make these box and whisker plots is that we use the quartiles to mark those points. So I've got pieces of the box over here, box and whisker plot that we'll put. And this is very similar to the stuff you guys were doing yesterday. We first make our quartiles by, breaking this in half. We would want to have our sort of lower half of numbers, which I suppose would be these 5, and our upper half of numbers, which would be these 5 here. And then we would, pick out our pieces. You guys were working on this yesterday. So our quartile 2, or in other words, the median, those are the same things. That would be 32. The minimum is 8. The maximum being 77. And then we pick out our quartile 1 here is 11. And then quartile 3 here is 60. Now, the thing that we do need to have happen when you are setting up a quartile is sometimes people will just come in and put random numbers down here, and that is incorrect. What you need to do is make sure that these numbers are always spaced out evenly, right? Then there are 11 dashes on here, and I need to get up to at least 77. So you always need to make sure that they're counting by the same thing on the number line. So for instance, here, I might start at 0 and then say the next one is 10, 20. So we need to make sure that these are exactly even. I can't, all of a sudden, it would be incorrect of me to put down here 77, because notice that broke this pattern. It needs to be in the same pattern. So this would need to be 80 and 90, maybe even 100 out there. And that's perfectly fine. You don't necessarily have to use all those things, but they do have to be in the same pattern. Or maybe if you wanted, maybe you went in here and counted by 11s, and then you would end at 77 eventually, right? Or you could count by 8s or 5s or whatever you want to count by. That's perfectly fine. You just want to make sure to pick a number that will include both your lower number and your maximum on your grid. And so then you start making these. So the whiskers should always go from minimum to maximum. So this one should go from 8, which there's 10, so maybe I go a little bit farther than 10, and so thereabout is 8. And this should then go all the way up to 77. Oops, I'm going to hold down actually the shift key. Notice if I don't hold down the shift key, it bounces all over the place, right? It doesn't stay very straight, which is fine. I'm not like super particular about that. But if you yourself want it to stay nice and horizontal, hold down the shift key, and then it will stay horizontal. It tries to go, more, it snaps it to better angles. So here I'm going to hold down the shift key and go to about 77, which would be about right here, a little short of 80. So there from 8 to 77, there are those pieces. And then our box goes from quartile 1 to quartile 3. So here I would need the box to start at 11, which is just a little bit bigger than 10. And actually, I'm going to change this, and this should be the same for you guys. Let's see. I'll make sure to change that so that it stops, trying to attach to weird spots. So that should be able to do that. So for right now, it's going to do some weird things on here. But anyway, quartile 1 is at 11. Quartile 3 should go up to 60. So I should make the edge of this box out to 60, right? That's this edge here. And then the last one to put in is the very middle bar. The middle bar should be at the median, or in this case, 32, which 32 is about right here, because here's 30, here's 40, so 32 should be about right there. So I'm going to grab this box and put it at about 32, and then I just place that bar down. And again, it doesn't have to match, right at the top, right at the bottom, but there is my box and whisker plot. Notice again, in between 8 and 11, there's the same amount of stuff as there is between 32 and 60, right? There's the same amount of numbers, the same amount of stuff. It's just that this is more spread out and this is more kind of congested or clumped together. There's the same amount of information. But that's how you make a box and whisker plot. Our minimum, our maximum, and then we also have quartile 1 and quartile 3, and then we have our median right in the, that's where our bar is at the median, okay? And that's how we use that. So this is making sense to you. You want to jump to the homework, go ahead. I'm going to do one more example just to show you guys kind of how this works. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this so that I can actually move these around a little bit. So I'll be back in just a second. All right, and we're good. Magic of technology. You guys don't have to watch me fumble through all these things. Where it's at, if you're wondering, if it's not working for you, there is under View, and you go to Snap to, and you just snap it to the grid instead of the guidelines. The guidelines try and match it up to all those red lines pop up. If you do the grid, it's a little easier to move stuff around. So back to this example. Again, we just need to find our different quartiles. So here I can see the lower half, actually, it doesn't work out perfectly. The 129 is going to be exactly the median. I don't have to mess around with anything extra, which means quartile 1 is halfway between here. So that's 110.5. Here again, this is quartile 3. This would be halfway between here. And then we have our minimum and our maximum at 230. So now I need to make this go all the way up to 230. So I might kind of like, well, think about that. There's 11 different spaces on here. I got to make it from 99 to 230. So to kind of figure out what these might be, one way we could do that is find the range and divide by how many parts I have. So like I might say, well, I wonder what's 230 minus 99, and then divide that by 11. And, I get about 11.9. So maybe if I count by 15s or something like that, that would be nice if we were at, I need something like, well, I need to at least cover 99. So maybe I'll have hundreds pretty close to 99. And I'll count by 15s or something. So like here, this would maybe be 85. If I went down, if I go up, there's 115, 130, 145, and I just kind of keep counting by those 15s all the way up. I suppose this would make 90, if I did that right, and then 205, and then 230, and then, we wouldn't necessarily need the 245 because 230 is going to be the largest. So that's mine. Again, you might pick out other stuff. Maybe you want to count by 10s or things like that, or if you want to put a different thing in there, maybe you counted by 20s. That'd be fine too, right? I just chose 15s because it doesn't matter. Like, that's fine. Count by whatever you want as long as it's consistent in what you're counting by on the track down here. And then we just set the rest of them. So it's got to go from 99 up to 230. So I'm going to put this here. I'm going to hold down my shift key so it stays straight. 99 up to 230, right? I mean, I tried to get it as close here. I mean, I'm going to be fair, like when I'm going through and checking these, like obviously I'm going to see, oh yeah, they were shooting for 99 there, right? And here's 110.5, okay? So there's my quartile 1, needs to be at 110.5. So I got to go, that's probably, it's closer to 115 than 110. So somewhere in here-ish, I don't know. That's got to be pretty close. And it's got to go up to 195.5. So there's 190. It's got to be, somewhere in there. So there's 190. There's probably 200-ish. So maybe it's back in here. that's my best estimate. And then this has to be at 129. The median's 129. So the median would go about, no, there's 130. So I got to drop, a little bit more somewhere in here. There's maybe 129, just a little smaller than 130. And there's my box and whisker plot. Okay. You've got to use those different quartiles to, set those different pieces around there. And that's where those go from. So again, if you guys have any questions, let me know about that. Otherwise, good luck.